My mother snooped in my husband's office and discovered the pregnancy surprise box I made for him with the world's best dad mug. Can you imagine being so excited about expecting twins, especially after years of trying, only for your own mother to accuse your husband of having an affair baby with someone else? And then it gets so much worse. She actually placed a curse on our house, triggering my high-risk pregnancy into early labor. You're not going to believe what happened next. My husband and I were absolutely over the moon. We'd been trying to conceive for nearly 3 agonizing years, going through so much, and when that positive test finally showed up, we just collapsed. We both cried for what felt like hours, tears of pure, overwhelming joy. But our pregnancy, especially since we were expecting twins, was incredibly high risk. There were complications from the start, so my doctor ordered modified bed rest. We decided very deliberately to keep our amazing news completely under wraps. We wanted to wait until we knew for sure that both babies and I would be okay. This was our precious secret, our miracle. So I spent days, weeks even, planning the most perfect surprise for my husband. I gathered all these little treasures: a world's best dad mug, the tiniest baby onesie I could find, you know, the kind that just makes your heart ache with love, and a sweet baby book to track all those firsts. I pictured it all. He'd come home from his stressful day, I'd hand him this mysterious box, and his face, oh his face, it was utterly priceless. He literally fell to his knees, clutching me, just sobbing with pure happiness. We had no idea then that it was twins, so that special box, it only held one of everything. Just one. And then the very next day my mom showed up. Unannounced, of course. That was just her way. Ever since we moved close to her, our house had become her personal playground. Look, I love my mother truly, but she has always been incredibly overbearing. Absolutely zero concept of personal boundaries. She treated our home like it was an extension of her own. Walking right in without knocking, rearranging my kitchen cabinets without asking, and God, commenting on everything from our decor to our marriage. This time, I left her in the living room for what couldn't have been more than a minute, just to grab us some tea. That's all it took. When I came back, empty. My heart sank. I found her in my husband's office, his private office, holding the pregnancy surprise box. She'd opened it, examined every single item. I watched, frozen, as she stormed out like a woman possessed, literally waving that world's best dad mug like a weapon. She started screaming that my husband was having an affair baby. Can you believe it? She'd somehow convinced herself he had a secret dad box hidden away because some other woman was pregnant with his child. My mind was reeling. I tried to deflect, stammering, "Mom, why were you even in his office? Why were you snooping?" And she had the absolute audacity to claim she was looking for the bathroom in a house she'd visited hundreds of times. Even if that ridiculous lie were true, why would she be rummaging through drawers, going through personal items? She just kept going, demanding to know why I wasn't furious about my husband's supposed affair. Why I was trying to make her the bad guy when he was clearly cheating right under my nose. In that moment I had 2 terrifying choices. Either tell her the truth about my deeply personal high-risk pregnancy, or let her spin these insane rumors about my incredibly faithful, loving husband being a cheater. What a nightmare. Reluctantly, I told her. I stammered out that I had made the box because we were expecting. Her entire demeanor changed. Instantly. She went from raging banshee to shrieking about finally being a grandma. "Oh, I've waited so long for this moment," she declared, pulling out her phone to call her best friend Linda. I practically had to wrestle the phone from her hands, begging her, "Please, Mom, don't tell anyone yet." But she was absolutely indignant. "I have to tell Linda. We never keep secrets from each other." I begged, I pleaded, I practically got on my knees. Finally, grudgingly, she agreed to keep quiet. Within 24 hours, I had received congratulations from her entire book club, her hairdresser, the cashier at her grocery store, and roughly half the town. According to my mom, they all promised to keep the secret too. Of course they did. From that moment on, she just wouldn't stop, harassing me about doctor's appointments, demanding to know every ultrasound detail, every test result. She claimed she deserved every piece of information as the baby's granny. She actually had the audacity to demand she be in the delivery room instead of my husband, the actual father of these babies. I shut that down so fast her head must have spun. She also informed me that she and her friends were already planning my baby shower, despite never once asking if I even wanted one. The stress from her constant calls, her endless texts, her unexpected visits. It was all becoming unbearable during an already complicated high-risk pregnancy. My husband, bless his heart, started screening my calls and intercepting her demands. He was my rock. But then yesterday she sent a text that just pushed me over the edge. She claimed it was her right as a loving parent to know every single detail about her child's and future grandchildren's health. That's when my husband and I looked at each other and said, "Enough. This is enough." We arranged to meet her at a local cafe this morning for a serious conversation. She arrived bubbling with excitement, immediately asking if I'd reconsidered letting her in the delivery room, demanding to know the gender for her shower planning. I took a deep breath. I calmly explained that while I loved her and appreciated her excitement, she had utterly robbed us of the joy of announcing our own pregnancy. Her snooping, her cruel accusations against my husband, her complete disregard for our wishes. She had crossed every single boundary we had. Her inability to keep a secret, despite explicitly promising to do so, proved she couldn't be trusted with sensitive information. She was furious but could barely defend herself, only claiming she shared the news because she was proud. She actually said her biggest crime was being excited to be a granny. Then came the personal attacks. She blamed my husband for changing me for the worse, claimed I was depriving my baby of a grandmother. She stormed out, shouting at me not to contact her unless I was ready to apologize. That night, she sent the most unhinged text message yet. She claimed to have placed a curse on our house and marriage. The only way to remove it, she said, was to be reasonable about her grandparent rights. We thought she was bluffing honestly, until we found a creepy bundle of twigs, hair and herbs under our bed. Under our bed. We threw it out immediately. A locksmith was coming the next day. We decided right then and there. Complete no contact until after the babies arrived. But knowing my mom's escalating behavior, this was definitely not over. Not by a long shot. My dad called on the third day. My parents had divorced years ago, but apparently Mom had reached out to him in desperation. He was more understanding than the others, but still thought we should consider supervised visits. When I explained about the curse threat and the creepy bundle under our bed, he went quiet. Then he admitted it. This wasn't the first time Mom had done something like that. During their divorce, she'd left similar items in his apartment and claimed to have hexed his new relationship. My own father had experienced this. It was mind-boggling. The stress was truly taking its toll. I started having minor contractions, and my doctor ordered complete bed rest. My husband had to return to work, but not before installing cameras around our entire property. He also changed our phone numbers, giving the new ones only to my doctor and his parents. For a few blessed days we had peace. I focused on staying calm, reading baby books, trying to keep my feet elevated. My husband's parents, who lived several states away, were nothing but supportive. They sent care packages and offered to come help after the babies were born, but only when we were ready for visitors. They were exactly what we needed. And then Mom discovered our new security measures. The cameras caught her trying to approach our house 3 different times. Once she even had my aunt with her, and they spent 20 frantic minutes trying every window and door, practically rattling the house. My heart just broke, because here I was, dealing with so much stress trying to keep my babies safe, and she just kept pushing. I mean, my poor mother-in-law later told me she just peeked through the blinds and gasped at the spectacle. Another time, she left a box on our porch with a note saying it contained family heirlooms for the babies. My husband disposed of it without even opening it, remembering what happened with the last gift she left. The situation escalated dramatically when Mom figured out I was on bed rest. Somehow she'd gotten information from someone at my doctor's office, though they swore they hadn't released any details. She started telling everyone I was dying, that the pregnancy was killing me, and that she needed to be there to say goodbye to her daughter. This lie spread through our extended family like wildfire. My phone might have had a new number, but my social media didn't. I woke up one morning to dozens of messages from cousins and relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, all offering condolences and asking about my final wishes. My husband had to send a mass message explaining that I was fine, just on preventative bed rest, and that mom was lying. This caused a huge family divide. Some believed us and were absolutely appalled by mom's behavior. Others thought we were downplaying my condition to keep mom away, that we were being needlessly cruel in her time of grief. Mom then tried a new tactic. She started showing up at my husband's workplace, waiting in the parking lot to confront him. She'd cry about missing her daughter, beg for just one photo of me to know I was okay. Security eventually had to escort her off the premises, but she just kept coming back. The cameras at home recorded her leaving things at our door almost daily. Baby clothes, food containers, letters, photo albums from my childhood. Each delivery came with increasingly desperate notes about how she just wanted to help, how she was sorry for whatever she'd done wrong, how the babies needed their grandmother's love. But the nighttime visits were the worst. She'd stand at the very edge of our property, just outside the range of the motion lights, and stare at our house. Sometimes she'd be there for hours. Once, she actually brought candles and appeared to be performing some kind of ritual on our lawn. My husband had to go out and spray the hose to wash away whatever she'd drawn in the dirt. My mother-in-law offered to fly in early to help, but we didn't want to drag her into this mess. Instead, my husband started working from home as much as possible. His boss was incredibly understanding, especially after hearing about the workplace visits. 2 weeks into our no-contact period, things reached a breaking point. I woke up from an afternoon nap to find Mom's face pressed against our bedroom window. She was standing on a ladder trying to see inside. When our eyes met, she started crying and pressing her hands against the glass, mouthing words I couldn't understand. My scream brought my husband running. He rushed outside and found her trying to jimmy the window open with a screwdriver. When he demanded she get down, she became hysterical, claiming she just wanted to see her baby, that we were torturing her by keeping her away. The neighbors called the police this time. 2 officers arrived and had to physically help Mom down from the ladder. She sobbed the entire time, telling them about her pregnant daughter who wouldn't speak to her, how she was just a concerned mother trying to check on her sick child. The officers were sympathetic but firm. They explained she was trespassing and that she needed to respect our wishes. They didn't arrest her, but they made it clear that if she returned, there would be consequences. Mom left, leaving the ladder still propped against our house, wailing about her rights as a grandmother. That night, my husband and I lay in bed, both unable to sleep. The stress was affecting everything. I was terrified about what this was doing to the babies, and he was absolutely exhausted from trying to protect us while still maintaining his job. We knew something had to give, but we didn't know what else to do. The next morning brought a new shocking development. My husband's mother called to say she'd received a strange package at her home 3 states away. Inside was a letter from my mom, explaining that she was trying to reach her future grandchildren's other grandmother to discuss the situation. The package also contained copies of ultrasound photos we'd never given her, which meant she'd either stolen them or gotten them from someone at the doctor's office. My mother-in-law was deeply disturbed by the letter's contents. Mom had written pages about how we were unstable, how I was risking the babies' lives by refusing her help, and how my husband was controlling and abusive. She begged my mother-in-law to intervene, to talk sense into her son, and even suggested they work together to ensure the baby's safety once they were born. This was the final straw. We couldn't live like this anymore. Constantly looking over our shoulders, worried about what Mom would do next. The stress was dangerous for my pregnancy, and we still had months to go before the twins arrived. We needed to find a solution that would protect our growing family, while dealing with Mom's increasingly erratic and terrifying behavior. My husband started researching our options while I tried to rest. Though sleep was nearly impossible with the constant anxiety, we both knew the situation would only get worse once the babies were born. Mom's obsession was escalating. Her tactics were becoming more desperate and disturbing. Something had to change. And soon. My husband spent the entire night researching restraining orders and harassment laws while I tossed and turned, unable to find a comfortable position. The twins seemed restless too, kicking more than usual. By morning we had a plan. We would document everything, keep detailed records, and if Mom showed up again, we'd have no choice but to involve the authorities more formally. The documentation process consumed our morning. My husband organized every text message, voicemail, and security camera footage into dated folders. I wrote detailed accounts of each incident, my hand cramping as I filled page after page. We photographed the bizarre items she'd left, the damaged window frame from her attempted break-in, and even the remnants of her lawn ritual that hadn't completely washed away. We were building a case. Around lunchtime, my sister called from our hometown 2 hours away. She rarely involved herself in family drama, preferring to stay neutral, but Mom had shown up at her workplace that morning. My sister worked as a nurse at the local hospital, and Mom had caused such a scene in the emergency room that security had to escort her out. She'd been demanding my sister's help in staging a wellness check, claiming I was being held captive by my abusive husband. My sister's voice shook as she described how Mom had cornered her in the break room afterward, grabbing her shoulders and insisting she had to save me before it was too late. When my sister refused to participate in whatever scheme Mom was planning, she'd been called a traitor to the family. Mom had stormed out, but not before announcing to the entire nursing staff that her daughters had abandoned her. The call left me shaking. My husband immediately contacted his company's HR department to warn them about potential disruptions. They assured him they'd already increased security after the parking lot incident and had Mom's photo at all entrances. His boss even offered him extended work from home privileges until the situation resolved. That afternoon brought an unexpected ally. My husband's Aunt Natalie, a retired family counselor, called after hearing about the situation from my mother-in-law. She listened without judgment as we explained everything, occasionally making thoughtful humming sounds. When we finished, she offered to fly in and help mediate. But more importantly, she gave us invaluable advice about dealing with someone experiencing what she called grandparent psychosis. She explained that some people become so fixated on the idea of grandchildren that they lose perspective entirely. The combination of emptiness nest syndrome, unfulfilled expectations, and the loss of control could trigger extreme behaviors. She recommended we maintain firm boundaries while documenting everything, exactly what we were already doing. Her validation meant everything. I felt seen. My doctor's appointment that week required careful planning. We couldn't risk Mom discovering the location or timing, so my husband took a circuitous route, doubling back several times to ensure we weren't followed. The appointment itself was stressful enough without the added paranoia. The doctor expressed concern about my blood pressure and the frequency of my contractions. She emphasized that stress was dangerous for the pregnancy and wrote a letter documenting the medical necessity of limiting stressful interactions. On the way home, we stopped at a print shop to make copies of the doctor's letter. My husband had the idea to send it to key family members who'd been pressuring us to reconcile. Maybe medical documentation would carry more weight than our pleas for understanding. We were wrong. Within hours of sending the letters, my phone exploded with messages through social media. Cousins accused us of manipulation. Aunts claimed we were exaggerating. One particularly nasty message from Mom's book club friend suggested we'd forged the doctor's note. The family divide deepened, battle lines drawn between those who believed us and those who thought we were monsters. My husband's parents decided to visit earlier than planned. They arrived 3 days later, bringing a sense of normalcy we desperately needed. My father-in-law immediately took over cooking duties while my mother-in-law helped me organize the nursery. Neither of them judged or questioned our decisions. They simply provided the quiet, steady support we needed. Their presence, however, seemed to embolden Mom. The very night they arrived, she appeared at our door with reinforcements. This time she brought her sister, 2 cousins, and Linda. They stood on our lawn like some bizarre intervention squad, taking turns ringing the doorbell and calling out through the door. My mother-in-law peeked through the blinds and gasped at the spectacle. My father-in-law handled it brilliantly. He stepped onto the porch, calm and authoritative, and informed them they were trespassing. When Mom's sister tried to push past him, claiming family had rights, he simply closed the door. The group remained on the lawn for another hour, their voices growing louder and more desperate. Eventually, a neighbor must have complained because a police car arrived, and they scattered like startled birds. The next morning, we discovered Mom had been busy overnight. Every car on our street had a flyer under the windshield wiper. The flyers featured a photo of me from 2 years ago and text claiming I was missing, possibly being held against my will. It urged anyone with information to contact Mom immediately and listed her phone number. My husband collected every single flyer he could find while I watched from the window, absolutely mortified. Our neighbor, the one who recorded Mom's earlier outburst, knocked on our door that afternoon. She brought us a plate of cookies and her own security camera footage. She'd captured Mom placing the flyers at 3 a.m., dressed entirely in black like some sort of suburban ninja. She also mentioned that several neighbors had received strange calls asking about our daily routines and whether they'd seen any signs of distress. My contractions worsened that evening. My mother-in-law timed them while my husband rubbed my back. They were irregular but painful, and I could see the worry in everyone's eyes. We debated going to the hospital, but I was terrified Mom might have contacts there who'd alert her. Instead, we called my doctor's emergency line. She prescribed medication and strict bed rest, emphasizing that I needed to avoid all stress. The police arrived first, followed closely by an ambulance. While officers dealt with Mom in our living room, paramedics checked my vital signs. My blood pressure was dangerously high, and the contractions were 4 minutes apart. They insisted on immediate transport to the hospital. As they wheeled me out, I caught a glimpse of Mom in handcuffs, still ranting about fabricated evidence and her rights as a mother. She saw me on the stretcher and began wailing, reaching toward me despite the restraints. The sound followed me all the way to the ambulance. The hospital managed to stop my labor, thankfully, but I spent 3 days in the maternity ward under observation. My husband never left my side, sleeping in an uncomfortable chair and living on cafeteria food. His parents stood guard, ensuring Mom couldn't access our room even if she tried. The nurses, briefed on the situation, were incredibly protective. During those 3 days, the full extent of Mom's campaign became horrifically clear. My sister called to report that Mom had hired a private investigator to follow my husband. The investigator, ethical enough to be concerned, had actually contacted my husband's employer to warn them about his unstable client. Mom had also attempted to access my medical records through a friend who worked in medical billing, though thankfully privacy laws prevented any breach. We learned from my aunt that Mom had been meeting with a lawyer about grandparents' rights, though he'd apparently told her she had no case given her behavior. She also joined online forums for alienated grandparents where she'd found an echo chamber of people reinforcing her delusions. The posts she'd made, which my cousin screenshotted and sent us, were disturbing fiction about our lives. When I was finally released, we didn't go home. My husband had arranged for us to stay at an extended stay hotel under his parents' names. Our house no longer felt safe, not with Mom having mysteriously obtained a key. His parents returned home, but promised to come back for the birth. The hotel became our sanctuary. My husband worked remotely while I remained on strict bed rest. We ordered groceries for delivery and avoided social media entirely. For 2 weeks, we existed in a bubble of relative calm, focusing on keeping the babies safe and my stress levels manageable. Then came the letter from Mom's psychiatrist. Apparently, after her arrest, she'd been ordered to undergo a mental health evaluation. The psychiatrist couldn't share details, of course, but he suggested a family session might be beneficial. We declined immediately. Mom needed help, but we couldn't be part of her healing process. Not while I was still pregnant and vulnerable. My dad reached out again, this time with disturbing news. Mom had shown up at his house in the middle of the night, convinced he was hiding me in his basement. She'd broken a window trying to get in and had been found by police wandering his backyard, calling my name. He decided to file his own restraining order. The family fractures deepened. Those who'd supported Mom began reaching out with apologies as her behavior became increasingly impossible to defend. My aunt admitted she'd been scared during their attempted forced visit. My cousin confessed Mom had asked her to plant a recording device in our home. Even Linda had backed away after Mom suggested they hire someone to retrieve me. With just 6 weeks until my due date, we had to make hard decisions. We found a new rental house in a different neighborhood, one with better security and no connection to our previous address. My husband hired movers to pack our belongings while we stayed away. We changed doctors, switched hospitals, and essentially disappeared from our old life. The move exhausted me, but it felt absolutely necessary. Our new home had a security system, cameras, and a fenced yard. Our neighbors didn't know us or our history, We could grocery shop without looking over our shoulders. For the first time in months, I could sit on my own porch without fear. Mom discovered our disappearance when she was released from her mandatory psychiatric hold. According to family members, she'd gone to our old house and found it empty. She'd sat on the lawn for hours, neighbors reported, just staring at the windows. When the new tenants arrived, she'd accused them of being part of the conspiracy. Her spiral accelerated. She quit her job to dedicate herself full-time to finding us. She hired a private investigator, though he also refused to take the case once he understood the situation. She printed missing person posters with my photo and tried to file a report, though police quickly determined I wasn't actually missing. My sister became her next target. Mom camped outside her apartment, convinced she knew our location. My sister had to get her own restraining order after Mom followed her to work repeatedly. The hospital where she worked eventually banned Mom from the premises entirely. Through it all, my pregnancy progressed. The twins grew stronger despite the chaos surrounding their impending arrival. My husband transformed into an even more devoted protector, handling everything so I could focus on staying calm and healthy. His parents visited again, bringing baby supplies and emotional support. With a month left in my pregnancy, we received unexpected news. Mom had been arrested again, this time for attempting to access hospital records illegally. She'd posed as a social worker, complete with fake credentials, trying to find information about high-risk twin pregnancies. The charges were serious this time, including identity theft and fraud. Her arrest brought mixed emotions. Relief that she couldn't reach us, but profound sadness about what she'd become. This wasn't the mother who'd raised me, who'd been overprotective but loving. This was someone consumed by obsession, destroyed by her inability to accept boundaries. My husband suggested we write her a letter, not to reconcile, but to provide closure. We spent hours crafting it, explaining our position one final time. We told her about the damage she'd caused, the stress she'd put on a high-risk pregnancy, the family she'd fractured. We also expressed hope that she'd get help and find peace, even if we couldn't be part of her life. We sent the letter through her lawyer, along with ultrasound photos of the twins. It was our final gesture, an acknowledgement of what she'd lost through her own actions. We made it clear that any future relationship would depend entirely on her getting treatment and respecting our boundaries, though we doubted that day would ever come. The response came through her psychiatrist. Mom had read the letter during a therapy session and broken down completely. For the first time, she'd shown genuine recognition of her behavior's impact. The psychiatrist cautiously suggested this might be a breakthrough, though he warned against premature hope. As my due date approached, we prepared for the twins' arrival in our secret sanctuary. The nursery came together beautifully, painted in soft yellows and greens. We'd chosen names that honored both families while creating new beginnings. My husband assembled cribs while I folded tiny clothes, both of us pretending our hearts weren't broken by the circumstances. My mother-in-law flew in a week before the due date, ready to help however needed. She brought gifts from extended family who supported us, along with messages of love and encouragement. She also brought news that Mom had entered an intensive outpatient program, finally accepting that she needed help. The contractions started on a Tuesday morning, different from the stress-induced ones I'd experienced before. These were purposeful, progressive, and accompanied by a strange sense of calm. My husband drove carefully to the hospital while his mother followed in her rental car. We'd pre-registered under aliases to prevent any unwanted visitors. Labor lasted 18 grueling hours. My husband never left my side, coaching me through each contraction, reminding me to breathe when the pain overwhelmed me. His mother waited in the hallway, standing guard like a protective sentinel. The medical staff, aware of our situation, were discreet and supportive. When the twins finally arrived, healthy despite their dramatic gestation, I sobbed with relief and joy. My son came first, screaming his displeasure at the bright world. My daughter followed minutes later, quieter but equally perfect. My husband cut both umbilical cords with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face. In those first moments holding our babies, the months of stress faded temporarily. We were a family complete and protected. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. The twins were worth every moment of struggle, every difficult decision, every boundary we'd had to enforce. My husband's parents met their grandchildren with appropriate joy and respect. They took photos when we offered, held the babies when invited, and never once overstepped. They showed us what healthy grandparent relationships looked like, making mom's behavior even more stark by comparison. We spent 3 days in the hospital, cocooned in our private room. No unwanted visitors appeared. No dramatic confrontations occurred. Just us, our twins, and the beginning of our new life. It felt like emerging from a storm into sudden sunshine. The hospital discharge papers took forever to process, but I didn't mind the delay. Every extra hour in that secure room meant one more hour before facing whatever waited outside. My husband packed our belongings methodically while I nursed the twins, their tiny fingers gripping mine with surprising strength. My mother-in-law drove us home in her rental car while my husband followed. We took different routes, meeting at the new house 20 minutes later. The precaution felt excessive but necessary. Mom had surprised us too many times before. Our first week home passed in a blur of feedings, diaper changes, and precious little sleep. My husband's parents extended their stay, handling grocery runs and household tasks while we adjusted to life with newborns. Their presence provided both practical help and emotional security. On day 8, my sister called with an update. Mom had completed her first week of intensive outpatient treatment. The facility had strict rules about outside contact, which explained the blessed silence. My sister had spoken with Mom's psychiatrist, who reported she was participating in therapy, but still struggling to accept responsibility for her actions. The twins' 2-week checkup required careful coordination. My husband called ahead to ensure we could use the practice's private entrance. The pediatrician, briefed on our situation, scheduled us for the last appointment of the day. Everything went smoothly until we were leaving. In the parking lot, my cousin sat in her car, clearly waiting. She approached slowly, hands visible and empty, her expression apologetic. My husband stepped protectively in front of the twins' car seats while I froze, calculating escape routes. My cousin explained she'd been sent by Mom's treatment team to deliver an apology letter. She handed my husband a sealed envelope, then backed away immediately. She admitted feeling terrible about her previous involvement and wanted us to know she supported our boundaries. She left without pushing for more interaction. We read the letter that night after the twins were settled. Mom's handwriting looked shaky, the words clearly difficult for her to write. She acknowledged the pain she'd caused, the trust she'd broken, and the boundaries she'd violated. The therapist had added a note explaining this was part of her treatment process, not an attempt at reconciliation. 3 weeks passed peacefully. We developed routines, learned our baby's different cries, and slowly began feeling like capable parents. My husband returned to work part-time, grateful for his employer's flexibility. His parents flew home, but promised to return for the twins' blessing ceremony. Then the packages started arriving. Not from Mom directly, but from various online retailers. Baby clothes, toys, blankets, all addressed to us at our new home. The gift messages were blank, but we knew the source. Somehow she discovered our address. My husband contacted each company, explaining the situation and requesting they block future orders to our address. Most were understanding, though a few required official documentation. We started a new file folder, resigned to the ongoing need for paperwork. My recovery progressed well despite the stress. The twins thrived, gaining weight and meeting all their milestones. During a particularly peaceful afternoon, both babies napping simultaneously, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: genuine contentment. The feeling was fleeting but precious. Week 5 brought an unexpected visitor. Mom's psychiatrist requested a meeting, offering to come to us rather than risk our security. My husband agreed but insisted on meeting at a neutral location. They met at a coffee shop while I stayed home with his mother and the twins. The psychiatrist shared that Mom was making progress, but had fixated on the idea of earning forgiveness through grand gestures, hence the packages. He was working with her to understand that respecting boundaries meant no contact at all, not finding creative workarounds. He also warned that the upcoming holidays might trigger a relapse. My milk supply struggled with the ongoing stress. The lactation consultant suggested relaxation techniques and increased hydration, but we both knew the real issue. My body couldn't fully relax while constantly anticipating the next disruption. We supplemented with formula, another small casualty of the situation. 6 weeks postpartum, I attempted my first solo outing with the twins. Just a quick trip to the pediatrician for their next round of vaccinations. The receptionist smiled warmly, cooing over the babies while checking us in. Everything felt normal until I noticed a woman in the waiting room staring intently at us. It was Mom's book club friend, the one who suggested we forged the doctor's note. She didn't approach, just watched. I texted my husband immediately. He called the office and they discreetly moved us to a different waiting area. The woman left soon after, but the damage was done. Even routine outings felt unsafe. The twins received their shots like champions, crying briefly before settling. The pediatrician praised their growth and development. On paper, everything looked perfect. No one could see the invisible weight of constant vigilance, the exhaustion beyond normal new parent fatigue. My husband installed additional security cameras and upgraded our system to send real-time alerts to our phones. We practiced evacuation routes and established code words. It felt like preparing for war rather than raising babies, but we had no choice. Week 7 brought legal documents. Mom's arrest for identity theft and fraud had progressed through the system. The prosecutor needed our testimony for the preliminary hearing. We hired our own lawyer, determined to protect our privacy while fulfilling our legal obligations. The hearing was scheduled for week 9. We arranged for my husband's parents to watch the twins, not trusting anyone local. The courthouse felt imposing as we entered, my body still recovering from childbirth, my mind racing with anxiety. Mom looked smaller in her courtroom attire, her lawyer whispering instructions. She tried to make eye contact, but I focused on the prosecutor's questions. We testified about the harassment, the break-ins, the forged documents. Each word felt like a betrayal of the mother who'd raised me, but also a protection of the mother I'd become. The judge bound the case over for trial. Mom's lawyer requested reduced bail, citing her mental health treatment. The judge agreed but imposed strict conditions. No contact with us directly or through third parties, and continued psychiatric treatment. Violation would mean immediate incarceration. We left through a side exit, avoiding Mom's supporters gathered in the main lobby. The drive home felt surreal. We'd drawn a legal line, used the system she'd forced us to engage. There was no satisfaction in it, only exhaustion. The twins turned 2 months old on a Thursday. They'd started smiling. Real social smiles that melted our hearts. My daughter was the more vocal one, cooing and gurgling constantly. My son preferred to observe quietly, his serious expression reminding me of his father. That weekend we attempted normalcy. A walk in the park, just our little family enjoying the autumn weather. The twins dozed in their stroller while we found a bench near the pond. Other parents nodded in solidarity, recognizing the exhausted but content look of new parenthood. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. Against better judgment, I answered. It was Mom's treatment facility, informing us she'd been hospitalized after a mental health crisis. She'd apparently had a breakdown during group therapy, while discussing grandparent relationships. They needed emergency contact information for her insurance. We provided what we could without engaging further. That night I cried while nursing the twins. Not for the mother who terrorized us, but for the one I'd lost long before the pregnancy. The one who taught me to tie my shoes and bake cookies, who'd been my fierce protector before becoming my greatest threat. Week 10 brought preparation for the criminal trial. Our lawyer coached us on testimony, reminded us to stick to facts rather than emotions. The prosecutor felt confident about conviction given the evidence. We just wanted it over. My husband took extended leave from work. His employer remained supportive, but the situation was affecting his career. Another casualty of Mom's obsession. We discussed relocating after the trial, starting fresh somewhere without memories on every corner. The twins' 3-month checkup showed continued healthy development. They discovered their hands, spending hours examining their fingers with intense concentration. These small miracles helped balance the ongoing stress. Life persisted despite everything. Then came an unexpected ally. Dad's new wife reached out, offering support. She'd been through something similar with her own mother years ago. She shared resources for grandparent alienation situations, validated our decisions, and offered practical advice about maintaining boundaries. Her suggestion about a family safety plan proved invaluable. We created detailed protocols for various scenarios, shared them with trusted friends, and felt slightly more in control. Preparation couldn't eliminate risk, but it certainly reduced the panic. Week 12 arrived with the twins' first real laughs. My son giggled at his father's silly faces while my daughter found the mobile above her crib hilarious. Those sounds, pure joy unmarred by the world's complications, gave us strength for what came next. The trial began on a Monday. We'd arranged for round-the-clock care with my husband's parents, pumping milk between testimony sessions. The prosecution presented their case methodically. The harassment, the break-ins, the forged documents, the false identity used to access medical records. Mom's defense relied heavily on her mental health issues. Her lawyer painted a picture of a loving grandmother driven to extremes by cruel exclusion. They brought character witnesses who testified about her years of community service, her dedication to family. Our testimony remained consistent, factual, devoid of the emotion threatening to overwhelm me. We described each incident, the escalation, the fear for our unborn children. The defense tried to paint us as overreacting, but the evidence spoke louder than their insinuations. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. We waited in a small room, pumping milk and checking constantly with my in-laws about the twins. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, I felt nothing but emptiness. Victory implied winning something. This felt like loss all around. Sentencing was deferred pending psychiatric evaluation. Mom would remain in treatment, but now with a criminal record. The judge issued a permanent restraining order regardless of the ultimate sentence. We were legally protected but emotionally drained. The drive home took forever. Traffic crawling while my body ached to hold my babies. When we finally arrived, I collapsed on the couch, twins in my arms, and sobbed. My husband held all three of us, his own tears falling silently. In the days that followed, we slowly reclaimed our lives. The twins continued growing, blissfully unaware of the drama surrounding their arrival. We established new routines, found joy in simple moments, and began healing from months of trauma. My husband returned to work full-time, his career back on track. I joined a mother's group, carefully vetted for privacy. We made friends with other new parents, couples who knew nothing of our history. It felt like wearing a disguise, but a necessary one. The twins started sleeping longer stretches, giving us precious hours of rest. We used the time to reconnect, to remember why we'd chosen each other before chaos consumed our lives. Those quiet moments, holding hands in the dark, rebuilt our foundation. 3 weeks post-trial, Mom was sentenced to probation with mandatory psychiatric treatment. The criminal record would follow her forever, another consequence of choices she'd made. We received the news without celebration, just relief that jail time was avoided. My sister visited for the twins' 4-month milestone. She held them with wonder, marveling at their development. We talked carefully around the obvious absence, focusing on the present rather than the painful past. She'd maintained her own boundaries with Mom, another family casualty. The restraining order meant we could finally relax in public. Grocery shopping became routine instead of reconnaissance missions. The twins charmed strangers with their smiles while we slowly lowered our guard. Hypervigilance faded gradually, replaced by normal parental concern. My milk supply recovered as stress decreased. Nursing became a peaceful bonding time rather than a struggle. The twins thrived on the combination of breast milk and formula. Growing chubby and content, their pediatrician praised our flexibility, unknowing of the journey behind it. 5 months arrived with major milestones. Both twins rolled over, my daughter first, then my son, determined not to be outdone. We cheered and recorded videos, building memories untainted by the past year's trauma. These moments belonged purely to us. My husband's parents visited for a week, delighting in their grandchildren's development. They respected every boundary, asked before taking photos, and never overstepped. Their example highlighted what we'd lost, but also what we protected our children from experiencing. The seasons changed, autumn fading to winter. We decorated for the twins' first holidays, creating new traditions for our small family. Each celebration felt like reclaiming something stolen, building the life we'd always envisioned. 6 months brought solid foods and endless laundry. The twins approached eating with enthusiasm, wearing more than they swallowed. These messy, joyful meals felt like victory. We were living, not just surviving. Mom's treatment team sent periodic updates through her lawyer. Progress was slow but steady. She'd accepted the restraining order, stopped attempting contact through third parties. The packages ceased. The flying monkeys retreated. Silence settled over our lives like snow. It's been a long, painful road, and honestly, sometimes it still feels surreal. But looking at my beautiful, thriving twins, I know every single struggle was worth it. We found our peace, our strength, and our family despite everything. Have you ever faced a situation where you had to cut ties with a family member to protect your own sanity or your children? What did you do? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.